Have you ever wondered what allows a person to stay calm even when life wrongly accuses them, strips away their reputation, their wealth, even their freedom? It's not surrender, and it's definitely not weakness. It's a very rare kind of inner strength, what we call in Buddhism, living in harmony with conditions. There's a story of a father who was wrongly imprisoned for more than 10 years, and yet remained kind. He taught others in prison. He earned the respect of everyone in that place. Stories like that, they stop you in your tracks. They make you reflect. But what exactly does it mean to live in harmony with conditions? Is it about giving up? Just letting life push you around? Not at all. It's not passive, and it's not avoidance. It's knowing how to live in line with cause and effect, how to respond wisely to changing circumstances, how to stay centered, whether you're surrounded by praise or pain. Someone once said, "When the water is shallow, walk on tiptoe. When it's deep, roll up your pants." That's the beauty of living with inner flexibility. That's what it means to live in harmony with conditions. And here's what may surprise you most. This way of living is not about sitting back and waiting for life to happen. It's one of the most proactive ways of living, because it means seeing reality clearly, accepting what needs to be accepted, putting effort into what truly matters, and above all, never letting go of your moral compass. Those who live this way, they plant good seeds wherever they go. They stay humble in success, and they can still smile when sorrow surrounds them. They don't need a stage, because their life itself becomes a living teaching. Today, we're going to walk deeper into this wisdom, the path of living in harmony with conditions through the lens of the Buddhist teachings. It's a path that helps us stay grounded, even when the world changes. A path that lets us live in peace without turning our back on life. 1. Living in harmony with conditions. The resilience of wisdom and ethics. There are moments in life where everything feels like it's unraveling. The job you once trusted starts to fall apart. The relationship you believed in grows distant. The plans you carefully laid out go sideways. And in those moments, we often hear people say, "I feel helpless. Everything is out of my control." Or worse, "I give up." But in the Buddhist teachings, there is another way, a deeper, steadier path. It's called living in harmony with conditions. The words may sound light and gentle, but behind them is a lifetime of wisdom, ethical practice, and deep inner work. It doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean bowing to fate. It means having the inner capacity to stay grounded, no matter the circumstances, while still staying true to your values. It means when a condition arises, you meet it. When it fades you, release it gently. But through it all, you live with integrity, with compassion, and with a heart unclouded by craving. I remember a quiet moment that stayed with me for many years. It was during a Dharma talk at a small monastery in Northern California. A middle-aged man sat in the last row. He didn't say much, but his eyes carried something heavy. After the session, he came up and quietly asked, "Teacher, how do I live in peace when I've lost everything?" His wife had just left after 2 decades of marriage. His business collapsed after a market crash. His son, one he had invested his whole heart into, was no longer speaking to him. I didn't answer right away. I looked into his eyes and saw it. He didn't need another theory. He needed a place to stand. So I told him a story about a fellow monka friend from long ago. He was diagnosed with late-stage cancer at age 34. Everyone felt sorry for him, but what they remembered wasn't the illness. It was the way he lived his final months. He didn't complain. He didn't ask, "Why me?" Instead, he cared for the others in the cancer ward like he was the healthy one. He taught meditation to those who were hurting more than he was. And when his final breath came, he smiled. People said, "I've never seen someone pass away so beautifully." Because even as life left his body, he lived each moment fully mindfully, peacefully, in harmony with conditions. In Buddhism, to live this way is not to resist the flow of life, but also not to be swept away by it. We don't cling to what's already gone. We don't chase after people who have walked out of our lives. We see clearly, everything is a condition, and when a condition ends, we let it go without resentment. This isn't indifference. It's quiet wisdom. Those who live this way don't walk away from responsibility. They don't stop caring. They just stop letting ego take the wheel. They act not for praise or gain, but because it's the right thing to do. They know when to hold on, when to let go, and when to take gentle action. They live like water. Water doesn't fight. It doesn't argue, but it finds a way through stone, through silence, through time. That softness is its strength. Those who live in harmony with conditions become unshakable, not because nothing shakes them, but because they know where to rest their hearts. They rest in cause and effect. They rest in morality. They rest in the understanding that everything arises from what was once planted. So instead of blaming, exploding, or collapsing, they sit quietly. They breathe. They reflect. And they smile. Not because they're weak, but because they've understood. Someone once asked me, if I live like this, does that mean I stop trying? People who live in harmony with conditions still work hard. They still love deeply. They give their all, but they're not attached to the result. They don't let failure define their worth. They don't let success inflate their ego. They act without clinging. They love without controlling. They let go without losing themselves. They accept without giving up. That's what it truly means to live in harmony with conditions, in the deepest spirit of Buddhist wisdom. And when we begin to live like this, you'll find that life no longer feels so threatening. Even when storms come, you can keep your smile. Even when people change, you don't lose your center. Even when plans fall apart, you still have your peace. Because now you know, everything is a condition. And a wise, ethical person is not one who controls all situations, but one who no longer lets situations control their heart. 2. Meditation, the foundation for inner peace and living in harmony with circumstance. There's a question I've heard again and again, especially from those who've been through their fair share of life's ups and downs. How do I stay calm in such an uncertain world? It's an honest question. And let's be real, most of us at some point have felt shaken to the core. Shaken when we lose our job in a fragile economy. Shaken when someone we love walks away without a word. Shaken when the doctor calls and says there's something unusual in the test results. So what helps us stay grounded? What keeps the heart from breaking when life feels unbearable? The answer is simple in words, but deep in practice. Meditation. In Buddhism, meditation isn't an escape from life. It's not about hiding away in a forest or imagining a peaceful mountaintop. Meditation is about coming home to yourself, right here, right now, while the world continues to spin. In the scriptures, the Buddha called meditation the one and only path to the purification of the mind. And a mind that's been anchored in meditation no longer gets tossed around by every high or low, gain or loss. Someone who's been meditating for a while knows this well. It's not that they don't feel sad when misunderstood or hurt when betrayed, but that sadness no longer controls them. They can sit with that sadness, breathe with it, and eventually let it go. Letting go without denial, accepting without bitterness, There was a moment in one of our retreats, this one for healthcare professionals, nurses, doctors, even ER workers. One nurse broke down in tears when asked, "What wears you out the most?" She said softly, "It's not the long shifts. It's watching so many people die and not getting the chance to say goodbye." But by the third day of the retreat, she wasn't crying anymore. Not because she forgot her patients, but because in meditation, she learned how to sit with the pain instead of being swallowed by it. She told us, before, each death felt like a personal failure. But now, when someone passes, she takes a breath, bows her head, and silently says, "May you be at peace. May I keep serving with love." That's what meditation gives us. Not a shortcut, but strength. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha taught the 4 foundations of mindfulness: contemplation of the body, feelings, mind, and mental objects. And only through this presences, this deep, non-judging awareness, can we begin to quiet the noise inside. The mind, like a lake, the stiller it is, the clearer the moon reflects on its surface. But if the water's disturbed, even the brightest moon becomes distorted. It's the same with our hearts. We can't see clearly if we're always caught up in fear, anger, or anxiety. A meditative mind is one that sees the thought instead of being swept away by it. Even in a busy office, on a crowded street, or standing at the stove, you can still find that silent, steady place inside. That's why we don't have to wait for the perfect moment to meditate. No fancy cushion, no silent room. Meditation is really just being fully present with whatever's in front of you, moment by moment. And when meditation becomes part of our life, something beautiful happens. Success doesn't make us arrogant. Failure doesn't make us collapse. Why? Because we know everything is a condition of passing moment. When something good comes, we appreciate it. When it leaves, we let it go gently. More importantly, we stop defining ourselves by the world's standards. We no longer think, "I am my job. I am my bank account. I am what people think of me." Instead, we come back to something deeper and truer. I am someone practicing mindfulness. I am learning how to love, let go, and stand steady every day. And over time, something changes even in our relationship with time itself. One person told me, "At first, I couldn't wait for the bell to ring and end the meditation session. Now I wish it would last a little longer." Why? Because when the mind is calm, every breath becomes precious. There's nothing to escape, nothing to chase, just the freedom of simply being. We live in a time when everything moves fast. News updates nonstop. Jobs demand immediate replies. Relationships can end with just one unread message. But a meditative mind doesn't get swept away. It knows how to pause, to reflect, to choose how to respond rather than react out of habit. And from there, we learn to live in harmony with life's flow. We don't become arrogant when things go our way. We don't despair when things fall apart, because we understand everything changes. But the mind, that must remain the safe harbor. So in the end, meditation isn't about stepping out of life. It's about walking through life with eyes wide open and heart fully steady. When you know how to meditate, you know how to flow with life. When you can flow with life, you discover true freedom. No matter where you are, no matter what you face. 3. Suffering isn't something to escape. It's something to transform. There's a truth we all know, but very few of us have the courage to truly face. Life is suffering. The first teaching the Buddha gave after his enlightenment wasn't, "Life is beautiful." It was, "Life is dukkha." Life is suffering, but it wasn't meant to scare us. It was to open our eyes, to wake us up so we could live more deeply and truthfully. And yet, modern life has taught us to run away from suffering. No one wants to be sad. No one wants to feel lonely. No one wants to experience loss, betrayal, or being misunderstood. So, when suffering shows up, our first instinct is to hide, avoid, numb it. Some people bury themselves in work just to stay distracted. Some scroll endlessly on social media, binge shows, shop, or worse, turn to alcohol or drugs. Others walk away from their family, their marriage, even from themselves. They think they've escaped, but suffering always returns. And often it comes back sharper, heavier, because while running, we've only created more karma. There was a woman who came to our meditation center once. She was in a very fragile state. She had just left a 12-year marriage. She said, "I'm so tired. I couldn't take the way he treated me anymore. I tried everything to endure. But in the end, I had to leave." The teacher didn't judge. He simply asked, "While you were enduring, did you feel resentment?" She paused, then nodded. "Yes, I resented him deeply. I just never said it out loud." And what we discovered over the next few days was this. Even though she had physically left, the resentment was still there living inside her. She carried it into every room, every relationship. And unknowingly, she was still hurting, still blaming, still creating new karma while the old karma remained unresolved. That's exactly what the Buddha saw over 2,500 years ago. When we don't know how to embrace suffering and transform it, we avoid it, and in avoiding it, we create more suffering. Karma isn't punishment. It's simply the natural result of actions born from our state of mind. A restless mind leads to reckless choices. A resentful mind lashes out with harsh words. A fearful mind keeps running, circling through the same patterns. A true practitioner isn't someone who never suffers. They're someone who has the courage to face suffering with wisdom. No blaming, no complaining. Just a simple question. What is this pain trying to teach me? How can I grow through this hardship? Before becoming the Buddha, Siddhartha himself went through intense suffering. He gave up his royal life. He endured hunger, cold, misunderstanding, and ridicule. But he didn't run. He sat under the Bodhi tree and faced everything: his fear, his karma, his shadow. And he awakened not by escaping, but by staying long enough to truly see. In daily life, there are sufferings we can't undo. A loved one passes away. An unexpected accident happens. A child loses their way. We can't go back in time, but we can change how we live with those experiences. There was a father who lost his son in a tragic car accident. He once said in a meditation circle, "At first I just wanted to die too. I didn't eat. I didn't speak. I didn't sleep for months. But one day I thought, if I die too, who will take care of his mother? Who will care for his family so he can rest in peace?" And that question changed everything. He began to breathe again. He began to meditate. He began to live not for himself, but as a living gift left behind by his son. Out of suffering, he found gratitude for life. Out of despair, he found energy to serve. That's what it means to transform karma, not escape it. One longtime practitioner once said, "You don't need to wait for suffering to start practicing. But when suffering comes, let it be a bell, a call to turn inward, to look more deeply." Someone walking this path doesn't fear difficulty. They know every hardship is a lesson, and every lesson is a chance to grow. They no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, they ask, "What am I meant to learn here? How can I live more beautifully from what has happened?" Mindfulness, meditation, and ethical living, these aren't ways to avoid suffering. They are the strength to embrace it with clarity and compassion, to hold it without collapsing, to hold it so it can transform, not to hold it forever, just long enough for it to soften and release. There's a beautiful image in Buddhism, the lotus. The lotus grows out of mud, but it doesn't smell of the mud. Why? Because it doesn't fight the mud, nor does it let the mud drown it. It simply rises with its own quiet strength. A true practitioner is like that. They don't deny suffering. They don't let suffering destroy them. They rise nourished by wisdom and compassion. 4. Flexible yet unshaken, flowing with life without losing your moral core. There's a phrase in Buddhism that, at first glance, sounds contradictory, but actually holds profound wisdom. Flexible yet unshaken. In Pali, this spirit is often expressed through the teaching of adapting to conditions without compromising your principles. But what does that really mean? Flexible means knowing how to adjust to life's changing circumstances, to not be rigid or overly attached to form. Unshaken means holding firm to your inner values, your moral compass, no matter how things shift on the outside. These aren't opposites. They're two sides of living with wisdom. In the world, people often misunderstand flexibility as just going with the flow, drifting through life without goals or direction. But in the light of the Dharma, being flexible doesn't mean being passive. It means learning how to swim with the current of life without losing your direction. It's like steering a boat in the ocean. The winds may change, the waves may rise, but you still have to hold the rudder steady. If you only go with the flow without that steady hand inside, the boat might drift off course and crash against the rocks. There's a powerful story from Buddhist tradition about this very teaching. It's about a monk named Ji Gong, also known as the crazy monk in Chinese folklore. He didn't follow conventional monastic behavior. He drank wine, he ate meat, he spoke in riddles. Many people thought he had broken the precepts. But inside, his heart was clear, awakened, deeply compassionate. He didn't cling to appearance. He never harmed anyone, and in fact, spent his life helping the suffering, often in the most surprising ways. He walked through taverns, but never lost his mindfulness. He lived in worldly chaos, but never chased after fame or gain. That is what it means to flow with life. But never abandon the root of your practice. Not everyone can live like that. But it's a reminder. We adapt to circumstances, but we never adapt our integrity. Someone once asked during a Dharma talk, "How can I tell if I'm truly living with flexibility or just being too easy on myself?" And the answer was simple. Look at 3 things. 1. Are you avoiding harmful actions? 2. Are you doing good whenever possible? 3. Is your heart staying calm and clear? If all 3 are present, then even as life shifts around you, you're still walking the path, awake and grounded. But if you find yourself lying to preserve a relationship, betraying your values to gain an opportunity, or hurting others in the name of success, then that's not spiritual flexibility. That's selling your soul to survive. The world today is changing fast. Technology, culture, values, ways of living, everything is shifting. And yes, if we don't adapt, we'll fall behind. But if we lose our essence, we'll be lost entirely. A father may want to stay close to his children, but if he only insists on old traditions, never listening, never evolving, he may push them away. So he must be flexible, willing to listen, to grow, to update, but also unshaken. never encouraging dishonesty, selfishness, or excuses for wrong behavior. A business person today must be adaptable. Markets shift, trends evolve. But if they lie for profit, destroy the environment, harm people, then even if they succeed financially, they failed morally. True flexibility means walking in the rain without letting your heart get soaked. It means bowing to life's challenges but never kneeling to what's wrong. It's living with openness while staying rooted in compassion and mindfulness. There's a beautiful image to remember. A lotus flower. It grows in the mud, but never smells like it. It doesn't fight its environment, but it doesn't become it either. It simply shines through the quiet power of its own purity. A person who lives with flexibility yet remains unshaken is just like that. They don't need to rebel. They don't need to escape. They don't need to preach. They just stay rooted in the core of the path. Ethics, mindfulness, wisdom, and no matter where they are, they remain themselves. The Buddha once said, "Even in a crowd, the mindful one remains alone. Not because they're lonely, but because they're not swept away by the crowd. They can blend in without being dissolved. They can shift without losing their shape." Today, many young people ask, is living ethically outdated? Does kindness make me weak in today's world? The answer is number. To live ethically, to stay awake, to keep your precepts is not weakness. It's strength. It's what holds you steady when the world starts to shake. Morality isn't a chain. It's a root. Only when a tree has deep roots can it grow tall. Only when you have inner principles can you resist being carried away by every wave. Those who know how to bend and yet not break are the ones who are truly present in life. They don't hide. They don't cling. They don't betray themselves. That's not just a way of surviving. It's a way of living with true inner freedom. 5. Don't just go with the flow. Learn to plant the seeds too. In Buddhism, we often hear the phrase, live with the flow of conditions. It means don't force things. Don't try to control everything. Let life unfold naturally according to karma, timing, and causes beyond our grasp. But there's something equally important, and if we forget it, we can fall into a passive life, one of resignation and spiritual laziness. That is, we must learn not only to go with the flow, but also to plant the seeds. You see, going with the flow means accepting what's happening now. But planting the seeds means actively creating the conditions for goodness to grow. It's just like gardening. No one sits in front of an empty field and says, if it's meant to be, the tree will grow. No seeds? No soil preparation? No water? Then, even if perfect rain and sun come, nothing will sprout. The same goes for spiritual life. Some people wait for the right time to practice the Dharma. They wait until they're less busy, until life is peaceful, until the stars align. But those who know how to plant the seeds, they turn their messy, noisy, everyday lives into fertile ground for practice. I once met an elderly Buddhist woman who told me something beautiful. I've been going to the temple for years, but honestly, I feel I practice best right here at home. When I cook for my grandkids, I recite the Buddha's name silently. When neighbors argue, I remind myself to let go. When I see someone suffering, I always try to offer a kind word. That's what planting seeds looks like. Small, simple acts, but rich with meaning. You don't need a stage. You don't need to do something big. Sometimes, just one kind word, one patient gesture, One smile full of compassion is already planting a seed of awakening in someone's heart. The Buddha taught, "You reap what you sow." But he didn't just tell us to accept our karma. He also urged us to actively sow wholesome seeds for ourselves and for others. Look closely and you'll see. Some people come to Buddhism because a friend invited them. Some start meditating because they heard a Dharma talk online. Some learn to be kind because someone showed them kindness when they were at rock bottom. Those moments weren't just fate. Someone planted those seeds. And you and I, we can be that someone every single day. A person who goes with the flow shows wisdom. But a person who plants seeds shows compassion. Wisdom says, "I won't try to control others." But compassion says, "I can't ignore their suffering either." If someone is drowning in pain and all we say is, "Let them wake up when it's time," that's not compassion. Compassion is lighting a quiet lamp, not to drag someone along, but so they know there's still light in this world. Planting seeds isn't about preaching Dharma. It's about living the Dharma so that others can feel the truth through your presence. Some people never quote scriptures, never give formal talks, but their way of living humble, kind, honest, free of envy, becomes a living teaching for those around them. And it doesn't have to be grand. A book given to the right person, a video shared at the right time, a silent, understanding look in a crowded street. All of these can be the beginning of someone's path toward awakening. And in today's noisy, confused world, planting the seeds is more urgent than ever. There's too much information, but too little deep understanding. The young feel lost. The old feel tired. And amid the noise, the Buddha's teachings shine like a drop of clear water in a dry desert. But if no one carries that water, no matter how pure it is, it can't quench anyone's thirst. Planting seeds means carrying that drop of Dharma wherever we go. In our words, in our actions, in our way of living, quietly, humbly, with depth. Once, during a Dharma talk in the Western US, someone asked me, "I feel like living kindly is enough. Why should I help others understand the Dharma too?" The answer was simple. Because in some past lifetime, you too were lost, and someone planted a seed for you. So today, if you've found the path, if your heart has seen the light, then maybe it's time to light a small lamp for someone else. Not to earn merit, not to do something big, but simply because once you were given the light, and now it's your turn to pass it on. And finally, remember this: planting the seeds, that's our job. Letting them grow, that's up to life. Do your part with heart. Don't worry if others understand or notice. Every good seed planted will bloom someday. Maybe next year, maybe next lifetime, but rest assured it will never be lost. 6. Living with conditions, not surrendering to fate. There's a question that comes up often, especially when someone is going through a rough, confusing time in life. If everything is karma, then what's the point of trying? Or they'll ask, if my destiny is already set, wouldn't it be easier to just let go and stop struggling? Sometimes, during a retreat or a meditation class, someone will say with sincerity, "I'm learning to go with the flow." But when we look closer, we realize they're not really living with the flow of conditions. They're quietly giving their life over to fate. There's a very thin line between the two, but that line makes a world of difference in how we live and how we grow from our suffering. Living with conditions means flowing with karma, recognizing that everything happens for a reason, yet still actively planting good seeds, staying mindful, and keeping your heart steady no matter what comes. Chasing fate, on the other hand, means giving up. It means letting life drag you along, refusing to examine your past actions, and taking no responsibility to transform your future. A person living with conditions might still be going through pain, but they carry a quiet light inside. A person surrendering to fate may appear calm on the outside, but inside, they feel cold, powerless, and lost. Let's look at a simple example. Imagine two people who are seriously ill. The first one says, "I'm trying to keep a good mindset. I eat mindfully. I meditate each day, but I don't force my body to heal quickly. I accept whatever comes, but I give it my best." That's someone living with conditions. The second one says, "Must be karma. No point in trying. I'll just lie here and wait for whatever's meant to happen." That's someone handing their life over to fate. Both are sick, but one lives with wisdom and trust in cause and effect. The other lives with passivity and confusion. The Buddha never taught us to sit and wait for fate to unfold. He said clearly, "You are the heir to your own karma. Karma is your womb, your companion, your refuge." But he also taught this: if you know how to transform your actions, speech, and thoughts, karma can change. Karma is law, but your heart can still choose to plant new seeds. So let's be clear. Living with conditions isn't weakness. It's a deep and wise understanding of the law of cause and effect. People who live this way aren't passive. In fact, they're very proactive inside, but they don't cling to outer results. They do the work without obsessing over success. They love without being attached to how others respond. They live the Dharma without needing to show off their spirituality. At a Dharma talk once, someone asked me, "How do I know if I'm truly living with conditions or just giving up to fate?" The answer was simple. If you wake up each day, stay mindful, do good deeds, watch your mind, and nurture wisdom and compassion, you're living with conditions. But if you sit there, hoping life will get better, while making no effort, that's chasing fate. A middle-aged woman once shared her story with me. Her husband betrayed her. She lost her job, and for nearly a year, she fell into deep depression. In the beginning, she told herself, "This must be karma. I'll just meditate and wait for it to pass." But later, during a retreat, she had a realization. "I'm not meditating to pass the time. I'm meditating to see my own mind, and slowly, from that awareness, to choose differently." She began studying again, applied for a new job, helped others whenever she could, and each day she whispered to herself, "If life is a garden, then today, I'm planting one more good seed." That's when she truly began living with conditions, not fighting her past, but not letting the past dictate her future either. We can't control everything that happens, but we can always choose how we respond. We can choose to speak kindly instead of lashing out, to forgive instead of holding on, to keep walking forward instead of lying still and calling it destiny. There's an old saying, "Man proposes, heaven disposes." But the Buddha taught something even deeper. If you plant the right causes, the results will come, whether sooner or later. And if the result hasn't come yet, then keep tending your heart. Don't fall into bitterness. Don't lose hope. So if you're going through a tough season right now, don't just sit there and say, "I guess this is my karma." Ask yourself, in this very moment, what can I do differently? Can I think differently, speak differently, live differently to begin shifting this? Because in those small moments of awareness, a whole new path begins to unfold. 7. Living in harmony with conditions begins with a deep trust in karma. There's something curious about how we move through life. When everything's going well, we tend to think, "I must be doing something right. I'm smart. I've got this figured out." But when things fall apart, We look for someone to blame: fate, luck, or maybe even other people. Very rarely do we stop and ask ourselves, could this be the result of a seed I once planted? I remember a middle-aged Buddhist practitioner who once shared his story. For years, his business ran smoothly and success came easily. He believed it was because he was just smarter than most people. But then, the tide turned. His company began to decline. Friends distanced themselves. His health started fading. That's when he finally asked, if I'm really that clever, why can't I control what's happening in my life? That moment marked the beginning of his journey into understanding karma. Now, let's be clear, trusting karma doesn't mean blind faith. It's not about superstition or fear. It's about seeing clearly into the nature of life, understanding that everything has a cause. Nothing happens randomly. Just like when we plant a seed in the earth, we don't expect it to sprout instantly. It needs time, sunlight, water, and a little patience. Karma works in much the same way. Some of the outcomes we're experiencing today may come from seeds we planted a long time ago through choices, words, or actions we may not even remember. People who truly trust karma learn to be honest with themselves. Success doesn't make them arrogant because they know it could be the fruit of their parents' virtue, the support of others, or good seeds they once planted without realizing it. So instead of pride, they feel gratitude. And failure doesn't break them because they understand it's a result of some less skillful cause, perhaps made in the past. So instead of blaming, they reflect and grow. The Buddha said in the Dhammapada, to understand the past, look at your life today. To know the future, look at your actions right now. There was a woman who came to the temple, heartbroken and confused. After 20 years of marriage, her husband had been unfaithful. She said to me, I don't get it. I've been a good wife. I've done everything right. Why would life give me something this painful? We didn't offer quick answers. Instead, we simply invited her to sit with her pain, not push it away, not analyze it too fast, just be with it. Months later, she came back. There was a softness in her voice. She said, maybe I planted a similar seed not in this lifetime, but somewhere along the journey of my soul. But now I know if I let resentment take over, I'll just be planting more pain. So I choose to forgive, not because he deserves it, but because I don't want to carry this burden forward. That, right there, is what it means to live with the wisdom of karma. It's not about gritting your teeth and suffering in silence. It's about understanding deeply that life might not always feel fair by human standards, but it's always fair when seen through the lens of cause and effect. Someone who sees karma clearly won't say, but I tried so hard. Why am I still failing? Because they know effort today is a seed for tomorrow's fruit. And if today's fruit is still bitter, then keep planting good seeds. Don't stop. One meditation master once said, if you don't believe in karma, you can never truly live in harmony with life, because you'll always be second-guessing. Am I doing the right thing? Is this worth it? Am I being taken advantage of? But someone with deep trust in karma is like a farmer. They just keep tending the soil, keep planting the seeds, and trust when the season is right, the harvest will come. Maybe not early, but it will come. No need to rush, no need to stress, because they know their job isn't to control everything. Their job is to sow good seeds. The rest is up to life. In our modern world, we often hear things like, just be yourself. As long as you're happy, that's enough. But without understanding karma, that idea of being yourself can easily become just following your emotions without realizing what you're planting for the future. Believing in karma doesn't take away your freedom. It gives you freedom from blame, from bitterness, from constantly asking, why me? That's what it means to live with life, not against it. Not sitting around waiting for something to happen, but knowing that everything that does happen has a reason. and your role is simply to live it with integrity, to stay humble when praised, to stay steady when challenged, to stay open when the outcome isn't clear, and to keep walking the path even when the wind blows the other way. 8. Going with the flow doesn't mean giving up. It's actually the fastest way to transform karma. There's a common misunderstanding floating around. Many people think that going with the flow or living with conditions means surrendering, that it's about giving up, letting life happen however it wants, and no longer wanting to change anything. But here's the truth. Real going with the flow means being proactive without being pushy. It means accepting what's here, whether it's pleasant or painful, with a calm heart. And from that space, gently transforming yourself from the inside out. And here's the amazing part. That attitude, it's the fastest way to shift your karma. Let me share a story from a small monastery in northern India. A woman had been abandoned by her husband, left to raise 3 children alone. Life was harsh. Emotionally, she was drained. When she arrived at the temple, she didn't beg the Buddha to fix her life. She didn't blame anyone. She didn't cry out, "Why me?" She simply bowed her head and whispered quietly at the altar, "I don't know what seed I once planted, but from today on, I want to learn a new way to live." And she did. She started meditating daily, not to magically fix her life, but to change how she lived it. No complaining, no resentment, no wishing everything would go away. Just being with it, gently, willingly, consciously. A year later, people noticed something had changed. Her eyes were brighter, her face softer, her kids were calmer, her work more stable. It wasn't luck, it wasn't a miracle. It was karma quietly shifting, because her heart had shifted first. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha said, "One who accepts suffering with a calm mind is like fire burning through dry grass. Old karma is consumed, and new merit begins to grow." Sounds poetic, right? But when you look deeper, it makes perfect sense. The thing that keeps karma stuck isn't the situation itself, it's how we react to it. Some people stay in hardship for years, but they carry bitterness in their hearts, and so their suffering continues. Others face a single challenge, but instead of reacting, they reflect. Instead of blaming, they soften. And just like that karma begins to dissolve, going with the flow doesn't mean giving up. It means accepting life not with resignation, but with wisdom. It means realizing, this is the result of some old seed I once planted. So instead of fighting it, you plant a new seed with a heart that holds no anger. And that's when blessings quietly start to sprout. A great teacher once said, "Resistance is the fuel that keeps karma burning. When the mind no longer resists, the fire begins to fade." People often ask, how do I know if I'm really going with the flow or just passively accepting my fate? Simple. Look at your heart when life gets hard. If you're still full of frustration, bitterness, or blame, then it's not true surrender. But if you can smile softly, accept what's here, and quietly continue living with kindness each day, then yes, you're living with the flow from the heart. There's a Buddhist woman living in San Jose who once lost almost everything: her job, her finances, even her family. When she came to the temple, she said something that silenced the whole room. "I know this is my karma. I'm not asking life to change. I just want to learn how to face it in peace." Every morning, she began her day with a quiet prayer. "Today, I don't wish for life to change me. I just wish not to let life change who I am." And oddly enough, that non-seeking attitude began to shift everything. She stopped struggling. She stopped blaming. She started living more simply, breathing more deeply, loving more gently. And step by step, the old karma loosened and new blessings arrived. Here's the truth. We can't always choose the circumstances we land in, but we can always choose how we live through them. That choice between resistance and surrender, between anger and compassion, that's where karma gets rewritten. Going with the flow doesn't mean saying, whatever, let life happen. It means showing up fully aware, fully present in every moment. Not running, not numbing, but recognizing what's here and transforming it with your actions, your awareness, and your kindness. And don't think karma transformation is some grand dramatic thing. Sometimes, just choosing not to get angry, that's karma shifting. Just staying silent instead of arguing, that's a new seed. Just smiling at someone who once hurt you, that's you overcoming your inner hatred. That's going with the flow. Being with what is, but not letting it define who you are. The one who lives this way is like a river. Even when rocks block its path, it doesn't rage. It doesn't break. It just finds another way around. Quietly, gently, and in the end, it still reaches the ocean. 9. When you meet someone you love or someone you can't stand, what will you choose? Attachment, resentment, or letting go with compassion? In this life, we all end up meeting two kinds of people. There are those who warm your heart. Just seeing them brings peace, like part of your soul has found a safe place to rest. And then there are others. Just thinking about them stirs something uneasy inside. And sometimes, you're not even sure why. The world gives them simple labels, the ones we love and the ones we hate. But in the path of practice, the Buddha teaches something deeper. It's not the people who matter most. It's how we respond to them. That's where true practice begins. Some of the most powerful lessons in Buddhism don't come from ancient scriptures or long Dharma talks filled with chants and incense. They come in the small moments of real life. When you're standing face to face with someone who stirs desire, do you cling or do you stay mindful? When you meet someone who once hurt you, do you carry resentment or offer compassion? There was an elderly layman who once came to the temple and opened up about his life. He said, "I had a close friend once, someone I trusted deeply, but over money, he betrayed me, and I held on to that anger for 20 years. 20 years. An entire lifetime lived in the shadow of that one wound. The friend had long vanished, but the anger, it had built a home in his heart. Then one day, during a teaching on unconditional compassion, the man broke down in tears. Not because the old pain returned, but because he realized he had imprisoned himself in that resentment longer than the friend had ever been in his life. In Buddhism, compassion isn't just about being gentle with people we like. True compassion is not blaming, not condemning even those who've hurt us. So when you meet someone you love, don't rush to hold on too tightly. Because if you cling, you'll start expecting them to fulfill your needs. And when they don't, that love can quietly turn into disappointment or even anger. That's not real love anymore. Real love doesn't possess. It's close, but never clings. It's present, but never traps. That's love with mindfulness. And the people we dislike, they're the real test of compassion. Because loving someone who loves you back, that's easy. But loving the ones who challenge you, that's when your heart truly opens or doesn't. There was once a monk who was falsely accused. Even his most trusted disciple misunderstood him. But the monk didn't defend himself. He didn't blame anyone. He simply said, "We all have moments of misunderstanding. What matters is that we don't let those misunderstandings cloud our own hearts. How could he stay so calm? Because he understood the law of cause and effect. He saw that every person is shaped by their own history, their own karma, their own pain. And when you really understand that, you stop blaming. You just learn to live more kindly. A true Buddhist, whether in a monastery, in the chaos of daily life, or anywhere in between, can live the path. And one of the most beautiful expressions of that path? Meeting someone you love without using them. Meeting someone you dislike without hating them. Meeting anyone with compassion. It's not easy, but it's possible. All it takes is this. Every time anger tries to rise, pause. Take one conscious breath and remind yourself, I'm not here to take revenge. I'm here to understand. I don't need to win over anyone. I just need to overcome myself. And gradually, the people who once triggered you no longer control you. The ones who once hurt you become teachers who helped you grow. The world around you might stay the same, but your heart becomes freer. And that freedom, that inner lightness, is the greatest gift the Buddhist teachings can offer. Not a gift that makes you more powerful, but one that helps you carry less hate. Not to turn you into a saint, but to help your heart be less afraid. In the end, maybe we're not meant to love everyone we meet, but we're definitely meant to learn from them. Some come to teach you how to love. Some come to teach you how to let go. And some come just to remind you of this. Keeping a kind heart in the middle of pain. That's the mark of true maturity. 10. When life is going well, that's the time to plant merit, not just enjoy it. Here's something that might surprise you. Most people only think about practice, about changing themselves, about spiritual growth when they're suffering. But when life is smooth, when things are going their way, that's when they start to let go of the practice. They forget that favorable conditions are also a test. And honestly, not an easy one. Being wealthy isn't wrong. Being successful isn't bad. But how you live inside your success, that's what creates either wholesome or unwholesome karma. It's like a knife. You can use it to slice fruit or to hurt someone. Money is the same. Money itself isn't karma. It's what you do with it that creates karma. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha once said, "One who has wealth but does not give, does not share, does not live for others, is like a deep well no one can draw from. That water will rot." Simple words, but such a deep truth. If your merit isn't passed on, it will eventually run out. There was once a layperson who came to the temple in a fancy suit. He ran a big company, had a private car, a huge house, but his eyes showed a quiet anxiety. He said, "I have everything I need, but inside, I feel empty. I make money every day, but I can't feel what it's for." And then he lowered his head and whispered a sentence that made the whole room go quiet. "I feel like a machine making money just to enjoy it, then feeling hollow again. I don't know where I went wrong." And honestly, that story isn't rare. There are so many successful people out there who feel like a part of themselves has been forgotten because they believed, "Once I get rich, I'll finally be happy." But the truth? Wealth just gives you more choices. Happiness comes from how you use that wealth to do something meaningful. When life is abundant, when everything flows, that's when the trap of indulgence appears. We eat better, live more comfortably, travel more often. But here's what most people miss. Every moment of ease is actually an opportunity not to indulge, but to plant seeds of merit. Not to forget ourselves in luxury, but to remember others in need. One teacher once said, "Happiness doesn't come from how much you spend, but from how much you give with gratitude." There are people who are rich yet live simply. They give most of their income to help the poor, support orphans, fund Buddhist clinics. Those people, whether in suits or robes, are walking the path of the Bodhisattva. Someone once asked, "So, is being rich a bad thing?" Not at all. Wealth is just a kind of condition. A condition created by past good karma. But if used carelessly, it becomes an obstacle. Used wisely, it becomes a golden chance to build virtue. In a teaching given in India, His Holiness the Dalai Lama said, "If you have wealth, use it to plant the seeds of compassion. If you have wisdom, use it to enlighten others. If you have time, use it to listen and ease someone's pain." You don't need to be a millionaire to create merit. You just need a generous heart, even in good times. That alone plants the seed of blessings. There's a middle-aged woman in California who works in tech. Every month, she sets aside a small amount to cook porridge for the homeless on Sunday mornings. At first, just 10 meals. Then 50. Now, over 100. Someone asked her, "Don't you feel it's a waste of money?" She smiled and said, "Money runs out, but merit lasts. I'm rich today because someone helped me when I was poor. Now it's my turn to give back." A person like that isn't just rich in dollars. They're rich in spirit. And that's the kind of richness the Buddha pointed to. To be rich doesn't mean you have to live lavishly. To be rich is to have the resources to live with more mindfulness and meaning. If you have wealth, use it to connect hearts. If you have power, use it to lift others. If your life is going well, ask yourself every day, what new merit did I create today? What did I do for others without expecting anything back? When you live with that awareness, your heart won't cling to possessions anymore. It'll feel light. You won't feel proud because you have more. You'll feel grateful because you can give more. And from there, wealth won't make you suffer. It becomes a vehicle for awakening. The Buddha never told us to reject possessions. He taught us how to use them, to open our hearts. And when your heart opens, no matter where you are or what life looks like, you'll find peace. 11. Living in harmony with life doesn't mean giving up. It means quietly serving amid the noise. There's a certain kind of person. They don't talk much. They don't like standing in the spotlight. They don't post pictures of their charity work. They don't tell you about their sacrifices. But if you look closely, you'll notice they're always there quietly, wherever a warm hand is needed. They are the kind of people who live in harmony with life, yet never let go of their purpose to serve. In a quiet rural area of Oregon, there's an elderly couple. The husband drives patients to the hospital. The wife cooks meals for lonely seniors around the village. No organization, no title, just doing what's needed, helping when someone hurts. Someone once asked the woman, "You do so much and no one even notices. Don't you feel underappreciated?" She smiled and replied, "I don't need praise. I just hope that when I'm weak one day, someone will do the same for me." That is the heart of true service. Not for fame, not for recognition, not for the spotlight, because this person isn't trying to be seen. They live to help others live better. And here's something beautiful that people on the path of Buddhism often discover. The more you understand the Dharma, the more you let go of the ego, the stronger your desire to serve becomes. Not because you want to be admired, but because compassion starts to flow naturally, like an underground spring. Quiet, steady, and endless. You don't need some grand reason. Just seeing someone's pain is enough to awaken kindness within. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, Just as the lotus rises from the mud yet is not tainted by it, the one who lives in the world without being stained by it is truly blessed. Living with harmony doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean retreating when life feels chaotic or walking away when people disappoint you. It means, no matter the situation, you stay true to your original intention. There's a lay practitioner I knew in San Jose. He's an engineer by profession, but every weekend he visits a nursing home, not to preach, just to sit and listen. One elderly woman later wrote a thank you letter. In it, she said, "Every week, a young man comes. He doesn't say much. He just smiles and holds my hand. But somehow, it makes me feel like I still matter. That young man doesn't need a stage because his actions are already a living Dharma talk." You see, many people think that serving means doing something huge, like changing the world, founding a nonprofit, or leading a movement. But service often begins with the smallest things. Holding your peace when others are angry. Showing up at work with kindness, even when no one notices. Smiling when someone else is in pain. People who live in harmony with life, they're not giving up on fate. They're not drifting. They know where they are. They know what they can do. And they quietly do good with no need for applause. In the Avatamsaka Sutra, there's a description of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. The Bodhisattva enters all places from royal palaces to the depths of suffering to benefit sentient beings without attachment and without expecting reward. That's a model for how we, as lay Buddhists, can live. Serve with all your heart. Keep your spiritual intention strong. Expect nothing in return. And, strangely, it's exactly this way of living, this humble, selfless path, that earns others deep respect, not through words, but through the quiet energy of a life lived with purpose. Many people have told me, "I want to help, but I'm not ready. I don't have the money. I'm too busy." And that's okay. Helping others doesn't require you to have everything. Sometimes, helping means listening, or staying silent when needed, or simply not causing more harm. And when the time is right, when your merit has ripened, you will become a quiet light, shining for someone lost in the dark. This world, more than we realize, is held up by people like that. People who don't stand on stage, but carry the whole stage from behind. People who don't say, "I'm a good person," but whose presence makes others feel at ease. They don't preach the Dharma. They are the Dharma in how they live. So if today life feels hard, if your work is uncertain or your finances are tight, then still live kindly within the small space life gives you. Because who knows, your silent action today might ripple through someone's soul tomorrow. And when you've walked through all the twists and turns of life, when you've learned that harmony doesn't mean drifting, that it takes strength to stay awake in a chaotic world, that wealth doesn't erase humility, and hardship doesn't kill compassion, then something beautiful will bloom inside you. A quiet ideal of service, without applause, without spotlight, where every action, even the smallest, becomes a sacred offering. At that moment, life is no longer just passing days. It becomes a living Dharma filled with peace and presence. Because living in harmony with life doesn't mean living carelessly. It means living fully, no matter the conditions. And if you're already walking this path of inner peace, this path of facing fate with calm eyes and a steady heart, then please know this: you are not alone. We're walking it together. If today's sharing touched your heart, please subscribe to the Buddhism Seeds channel so we can keep growing together in the Dharma. Don't forget to hit like and share this video with someone who may need a gentle light in their life right now. And if something is stirring inside you, leave us a comment below. Your words might just be the seed of awakening for someone else. Thank you for being here. May your day be filled with peace in every breath.